Even today, I had someone be like, do you work with people who like don't have a lot of weight to lose? I mean, obviously I have clients that want to lose like 50, 100 pounds, like these massive journeys and, 20, 30 pounds. But honestly, I'm just such a believer that yes, your weight could be healthy and you might not need to lose weight, but what is your body composition telling you? And also, how do you feel about your weight? And so that's what actually sparked, honestly, all of my messaging around like feeling hot and being healthy and, pairing hot and healthy together, because you could be a healthy body weight and like have a normal BMI, but if your blood sugar is out of control, you don't have a lot of muscle mass, and also like you don't feel lean or fit, which are honestly, I'd also argue related to health. It's not just aesthetics, and it occurs on a spectrum, right? Weight to me is just not everything. And actually that was a big misconception I had. Like I thought being the skinniest biatch in the room was like, you're being healthy, but it's like actually being your lowest weight doesn't mean like you're your fittest weight.
Hey, this is Chad Namiro.
And I'm Kelley Namiro. Welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast,
a lifestyle podcast where we will interview guests about wellness, business, and just about everything in between.
Our goal is to help you develop a lifestyle that promotes health, wholeness, and success. Through our conversations, we hope to inspire you to live a beautiful, full, and joyful life as you navigate balancing the chaos.
We hope you enjoy.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Balancing Chaos podcast. We are so excited to have you back with us. This podcast is dedicated to finding harmony in our bodies, our minds, and with food. And so today we have a fantastic guest with us. Please welcome to the show, Lauren Hubert. She is a registered dietitian and weight loss expert behind the Sorority Nutritionist. Lauren has had a personal journey that has led her from struggling with weight gain in college to becoming passionate to balance weight and do it while having fun. With her expertise in programs, she has helped thousands of women achieve their weight loss goals while embracing a positive mindset and a guilt-free approach. And we are so excited to have you here today with us, Lauren, to share your insights and practical tips for navigating the challenges of weight loss and still living this fulfilling life. I want to say, I feel like there are so few and far between people in this industry that have that belief that you can, one, lose weight, and two, create a better body image on that path forward. Like it's like either you are a weight loss person or you are an intuitive eating person, like body positivity person. And like there is this really limiting belief that is this like all or nothing mentality and approach. And so I would just love to hear your thoughts around it, because people will come to me and be like, well, you said that I can lose weight, but like I can't love my body if I'm like only eating 1,200 calories a day. And it's like, that's not what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much misconception about it. And honestly, it was this that literally fueled me even pursuing private practice, because, in college, we learn about nutrition. I learned a lot about sports nutrition, always thought I was going to work in that realm. But actually during my master's degree, after my own very, very disordered eating struggles in college, I actually worked with eating disorders. And that was I was like literally being bred to be an eating disorder dietitian. And no shame to anyone who does it. There's a ton of women who need support and men that need support in those areas. So it's a fantastic career, but just wasn't where my heart was aligned. And it was actually quite interesting when I made the transition back into, I didn't want to work with people with eating disorders. I wanted to work with, the everyday person who just wants to get a little healthier. They may want to lose weight. They may have these goals. They want to take it to the next level. The amount of shame I got for that, unbelievable. And this is someone like I got my undergrad and my master's in nutrition. Like I went to school for this and I was still getting shamed for it, when it's like, there's a science to building body or building muscle and losing fat. Just like there's a science to how we're approaching talking about our body and eating disorders and, all the complexities that go into it. So yeah, even in a professional level, I feel like there's so much stigma when you say,
totally,
what do you do for a living? Oh, I coach women for weight loss. They think, wow, like you're selling either an MLM or you're promoting like detoxes or you're like promoting like Jenny Craig, go to the freezer section, get those meals. Like there is an in-between, and that in-between is actually where people are the happiest. Truly.
Yes, 1,000%. I think that like again, I understand that there's a problem with like, I'm the one over here, like on my Instagram and on my platform saying like, there is a problem with everyone promoting like the summer cleanse and like, cause I went through that, but then there's also a problem with, okay, go eat 2 Whoppers and pizza all day long. And like, it's intuitive eating. And like, that's fine because like, no, it's not, that's going to mess up your insulin and blood sugar and cause so much inflammation in your body. So again, happy balance, happy medium. And you can find that in between.
Intuitive eating just means if you want to eat fries, that's what you should eat.
Well, you know what
I feel like men are like
really know.
not educated in this space.
You know, it's so funny with intuitive eating. So intuitive eating is like an actual framework, but I always tell my clients, like they hijacked that word, which like, I'm glad it's been created. Like it is helpful for people, but like, it's really hijacked the word. Cause like I use that with my clients, but then they're like, oh, so you're saying, if I count my calories, that's bad. And my clients do count their calories to learn what's in their food, because you can't be intuitive and mindful if you don't understand what is in your food. Like if you don't know a banana has carbs in it, that's an issue for planning your diet. So yeah, intuitive eating, I view it as like being connected with your body, like mindfully eating all these things, but it depends on the crowd and the audience you're talking to. Cause if you say that, some people are going to think like, oh my goodness, you're just trying to go through, a self-love journey and whatever that looks like. But yeah, it's really confusing. And honestly, what you were sharing, Kelley, like it brings me back to the idea that there's just so much misinformation on what is healthy too. 100%. So, you say weight loss and everyone has a different skewed perception of what healthy for weight loss is, right? Some people think that's 1,200 calories, obsessing over just calories, not caring what you eat. When, what we're talking about here is like actually learning how to fuel your body, like support your metabolism, support your hormones. Right. It's like we're fighting a battle where like we all have different definitions of what we're even fighting about.
1,000%. I could not agree with you more. And I think that what you just said resonated so much. Is like back when I was in my 20s, we dated in college, and we
love
would
that. Me and my husband did too.
Really, I love that. And we would go on dates, and like because I wanted to be able to like eat my like share on the date, like I would starve myself all day long. And that was just like, those were things that I picked up, whether it was in magazines or from friends at the time or things along the way. And I think that before we hopped on, you had shared that like you kind of went through something, probably not to the same degree. Maybe it was, I'm just guessing.
Sounds like it was the same degree.
The same degree. Okay. It was so bad. And like, I was wondering like, why am I exhausted all the time? Why can't I'm eating like barely anything and I can't lose weight? I would like cancel plans on him because it would be around like, there's like a food thing that had happened that day. And I'm like, oh, I can't drink today. Or tonight. Or I can't eat tonight. So I'm not going to go out. And so I'm curious to hear like, one, tell us a little bit about your story. And two, with the clients who you work with, what are some of the rules or like limiting beliefs almost that they pick up? The 1,200 calories a day is like one that all of us talk about all the time, but share a few more around weight loss and like,
it's not enough.
No, like literally our toddler eats, our 1-year-old eats more than that.
Eats more than that sometimes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So back in college, the short, like TED Talk, even shorter than a TED Talk version of my story. So went to Florida State, joined a sorority, ditched soccer and competitive sports. That freshman year, gained 20 pounds in my fall semester. This was before I hear you, girl. Yes, before meeting my husband. And I went down a dieting path. And what's really interesting is the way I pursued weight loss, I really didn't know what I was doing. So when I was very, very at the height of my restriction, I actually thought like I was doing like the healthiest, most amazing thing for my body. So I was trying to eat less than 1,200 calories a day. I wasn't like hardcore tracking my food. I was at one point, but then like, honestly, like you just become aware of what you're eating. So, skipping meals, waking up in the middle of the night hungry, being like, okay, well, let's have a few almonds. Like, let's have some trail mix. The Publix trail mix at Florida State was great.
Oh my God. That brings back so many memories. My college roommate would literally like, I'd be like rummaging around. We got like one of those mini fridges in our dorm and she's like, are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
I'm ravenous.
Like, I'm like, I'm starving. It's like, why are you hungry at 2 a.m.? But yeah, go on.
Yeah. And so I also picked up running. I mean, I actually gained my 20 pounds, like working out every day, but to lose the weight, I even ramped up the running even more. I was running like 5-6 miles a day, doing that before happy hour. Like
Yeah.
Totally obsessed with calorie burn and not eating a lot. I also became a very, very strict vegetarian. And once again, this was all during my freshman year of college. I didn't have a car, eating in my sorority house and going to like Jimmy John's across the street. So was just like trying to do the best that we could on campus. Ended up that summer losing 30 pounds in a summer, which like is a lot when like I didn't even gain that much to begin with, but like it did gain 20 pounds. Like I did feel it in my clothes. But yeah, that actually sparked me changing my major to nutrition. I became the resident nutritionist in my chapter. And, you know, everyone asking me questions thinking I knew my shit, but it was through this time actually and working in the sports nutrition department, I realized, wow, and I actually got a bod pod scan because I was running those tests at Florida State.
I remember.
But they're so fun, right? I realized that, wow, okay, I consider myself fit. And yeah, I run all the time and I try to eat like clean and healthy or whatever, you know, definitions I had for it. But my body fat percentage was still kind of high. And I was floored when I went in the bod pod machine. That really made me realize, plus my husband loves to lift weights and got me into it in college with him. And it just made me realize like there's more to fitness than this like narrow view that I had of it. Plus, I mean, I'm not even discussing the amount of disorder I have. Like I would have so much anxiety with calories and being out to dinner and not knowing food. I mean, I remember one time outside my sorority house with my boyfriend, who's my husband now at the time, I was freaking out like, oh my God, if I go to happy hour, like, I just feel like I didn't earn food today. I didn't work out. Like, what am I supposed to do? So that really consumed me. And honestly, for so long, I didn't share that with people. And I feel like I hid it a lot. People probably picked up on it. I was just so restrictive, but my husband definitely knew. And ultimately, it was me realizing that I'm actually not alone. Even I'm studying to be a dietitian, but like, I'm not alone. Like even my sorority sisters, like we all struggled with this at one point. Just no one was talking about it when I was struggling with it. Like now we do.
100%. That was actually going to probably like be my next question was like around like how many, because at the time,
everyone we've had on the podcast almost, it makes me sad to admit that every
female. Yeah. And I feel like at the time when we were, because like when we got back together, I was like, we spent 2 years apart and I did a lot of work on myself during that time. And like, obviously after that, I was completely transparent about everything that I had gone through. But because of the fact that my weight was like, quote unquote, normal, like no one ever was like, oh, she's only eating 800 calories a day. Like that's like, so
that is normal.
Like,
I mean,
I think that like, that was like, that's normal. Part of the reason that
well,
like,
you know, what's funny. And you mentioned the client piece, you know, even today I had someone be like, do you work with people who like don't have a lot of weight to lose? And I'm like, I work with clients sometimes that say, I mean, obviously I have clients that want to lose like 50, 100 pounds, like these massive journeys and, you know, 20, 30 pounds, but honestly, I'm just such a believer that yes, your weight could be healthy and you might not need to lose weight, but what is your body composition telling you? And also, how do you feel about your weight? And so that's what actually sparked, honestly, all of my messaging around like feeling hot and being healthy and, you know, pairing hot and healthy together, because you could be a healthy body weight and like have a normal BMI, but if your blood sugar is out of control, you don't have a lot of muscle mass, and also like you don't feel lean or fit, which are honestly, I'd also argue related to health. It's not just aesthetics, and it occurs on a spectrum, right? Like that, like weight to me is just not everything. And actually that was a big misconception I had. Like I thought being the skinniest biatch in the room was like, you're being healthy, but it's like actually being your lowest weight doesn't mean like you're your fittest weight.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I think that like so many people think that like you know,
women.
No, yeah, women like, and I feel like it's hard to, especially now what you said, like people are talking about it. People are honest about it. People are transparent about it. But like, you know, 10 years ago when I was going through this, there was nobody on Instagram like, hey, I have, you know, I'm only eating 800 calories a day and it's not working. Like, what's the problem? And now it's like, okay, there's a different way to do this. And so I want to get into your approach, but what I was going to say is like, I don't think you ever like,
well, I mean, yeah, what is the problem? Is it the quality of the food? Is it
you mean why people don't lose weight when they're eating less?
Why not mentally, but from a physical perspective, why let's just say so many women struggle to lose or shed weight they don't want to have? Is it the quality of the food? I assume that from like a freshman 15 or freshman 20 perspective, it's probably quality of the food, lifestyle, and alcohol, right? But
I think it's also like, and I definitely want to hear what Lauren says, because she's the expert, but I think it has a lot to do with how. So
the short answer is obviously there's like a lot of things that impact it. I mean, logically from a science perspective, and how I explain it to clients is this, like, if you're not losing weight, you're not consistently in a deficit, even if you think you are, even if you're eating a small amount of food. But where the misconception in the weight loss industry that I really try to educate women on, especially on social media, is just because you have to get into a deficit to lose weight doesn't mean I'm saying eat less and just care about calories. It's how, and like that process of how to get there. So, I think for a lot of women, there's just one, like a lack of education and awareness about what they actually should be doing, and really defining like what healthy is for them. Like a lot of times I'll get clients and look at their food logs, which can paint such a big picture. And they're like, I'm having this beautiful on track day. And I'm like, there's not enough protein. You're not having 1 ounce of color on your plate. All your meals are out, which is not bad. And that fun can fit in. And also eating out can fit in, but it's like, do you know what that's providing you? Right. And like, is that an on track day hitting your budget, or is that, 300 or 500 more calories than what you think? And then also diet foods. Oh my goodness. The amount of clients lately, especially that eat so many diet product foods and not enough like wholesome
real food
from the earth, like real food. Yeah. And they're like, that's healthier than the other stuff. So, I mean, it's complex, right? There's many things that go into it, but I think lack of education, lack of awareness, and honestly, a lot of like the yo-yo all or nothing. And big thing I see with clients, especially the clientele I work with, is they'll do something for a certain amount of time, but then if it doesn't work in the timeline that they want it to work in, and their expectations don't match the reality, even if they are doing the right things, they will give up, and it will perpetuate that dieting cycle. So
the all or nothing mindset is such a big one. Like I'm with you that like people will be like, oh my gosh, like I did everything right Monday through Friday, but then this weekend and I'm like, okay, then what's going on during the week? Where are you too restrictive? Are you not like, are you too stressed that you feel like you have to just blow it out the whole weekend? Cause I get like a treat meal, but like to make your whole weekend, like about like, you're just having boozy brunches and like, you're not.
I think a lot of people too overestimate the impact of exercise.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
100%.
Yeah.
That was
see, like this conversation is a perfect example because and I was talking to my husband about this literally today. I'm like, I hate coaching people that don't want to learn.
Yes.
And so I'm very fortunate. I'm at the place in my career where I don't get a lot of people like that because of obviously how I talk about it on social media. Yeah. But like, there's so much that can impact your health. Right. And we know that. Yeah. But like when it comes to nutrition, it's like, oh, but look, I'm eating perfect. I'm hitting my calories. I should be losing weight. But it's like, well, what about your stress? What about your sleep? What about your digestion? What about your protein intake? What about your fiber intake? How are you exercising? And even just with the exercise category, it's like, okay, you're exercising, you're doing 3 to 4 days of strength. Well, for one client, 3 to 4 days of strength is doing like a 5-minute Peloton strength workout with 5-pound dumbbells versus another client doing a 45-minute session at the gym, doing progressive overload with like 100 pounds on their back. So it's like that load also differentiates the calorie burn and what's happening in your body. Yeah. So it's like the moment we become like too above learning, that's really dangerous for your health and weight loss.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people sign up for these programs and they're like, okay, like I'm going to do this. But then it's like, they're like change is really uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially when you've been doing things a certain way for a long time. And so before we get into like, I want to ask about kind of like pitfalls and things that people are doing wrong. But before we get into that, one of the things that resonated that you said was like diet foods. And I think that people, like, as we both know, we've said it even on this podcast, like there's this idea that if you reach your calorie goal, you're a human calculator, then that's all that matters. So you could eat 12 100 calorie packs. And that's literally what I used to do. Like, no lie. Like I would have popcorn and crackers all day long. And I was like, why am I not losing weight? So can you tell us, like, what is the balance? Like, yes, you have to be in a deficit, like you said, but it can be a really small deficit. It could be like 100 calorie deficit, and also hormones, blood sugar balance, all of that kind of stuff, like leptin, ghrelin, all of the, like the hunger and fullness cues. So what is the balance there? Like which one, if one does way more?
When I get asked what's most important, calories are obviously most important. Mm-hmm. However, we don't want to stop at calories, because the moment you stop at one thing, that's that's it. I don't even have another example of it. It's like just stopping at history class when it's like, you got to do all the classes to graduate high school, college, you know, like you can't just stop at one thing. Like it's not an option. So I always put it this way, calories are the foundation when we're talking through the lens of nutrition. You can't, as a dietitian, like if I have someone in front of me wants to lose 20 pounds, has no idea where to start, the first thing that I'm going to be doing is calculating their nutritional needs. And the first thing is calories, because you can't create a meal plan or even understand how much protein or fiber or omega-3, well, I guess omega-3 is a bad example, but like these specific other things, your nutritional needs is dependent on it. So calories are this foundation, but you know, the diet food piece, you don't, you know, I sometimes get asked like, how much of something can I fit in? Like, how much fun can I fit in? And I give examples. Like I've had a client, I remember I had a client lose 25 pounds. Literally her claim to fame was, I had a Yasso bar every single day. And that was like her highlight. They're like ice cream bars. Which I loved, by the way. And, you know, she was able to fit in every day. I've had clients lose weight having, you know, a glass of wine here or there very consistently, where I have other clients who may be older or have a bigger dieting history, or there's more mental, emotional, health related issues that are embedded into their weight loss journey because it's very difficult for them. They're what I call gossip girls. They get in their head a lot. They will look at other people and be like, that's easier for them, but they don't know the story of either how they got there or they have other things that they're like fighting behind the scenes that impact their progress. But anyway, you know, there is no limit. There's no limit that exists for like, you can have this much food and you'll see progress. And I always just point out like, that's the wrong question to ask. Like the proper question to ask is, okay, what are you doing now? Because the context determines what your next step is. So if you're coming in and what I call is like, your diet's a hot mess express, you make one little switch, girlfriend, you are in a slight calorie deficit. You're losing weight every week. You're like, this is amazing. But guess what? Like you will reach a point where that small little tweak doesn't work up level to keep that progress going forward. But I think what's difficult is for people who are really stuck in not making progress, there's a lot more they have to like sacrifice and tweak and implement to be able to take it to the next level. And I think it's not the work, but it's like the pissed offness that which is not a word, but like being pissed off that you have to put in more work than other people. I think that's what really holds people back.
Yeah, for sure.
So every client's different, that's fair, but maybe just generally, what are you recommending from a diet perspective in terms of what they're eating, how much they're eating, and, you know, what's their frequency between meals?
Yeah. So I'd say, you know, generally the first thing I always do is actually, once again, I figure out why their diet's a hot mess express. So I actually have my clients take a quiz. It's called Why is Your Weight Loss a Hot Mess? And that's where like the gossip girl came from. I have businesswomen who like, honestly, like they just need more structure. And some other ones. But that's the first thing, a little bit more related to mindset. But then the more tangible, like nutrition related things. The first thing we do is we got to figure out your calorie budget. So we look at your maintenance calories, we look at how you're eating now, and then we also use estimation equations.
There a certain number you won't go below? I've
never in practice with a client ever have had to go below 1,200 calories a day, ever, nor would I want to. Working with women who have been very, very overweight, especially as a dietitian, like morbidly obese, to women in very smaller bodies, very underweight. I'm very big on meeting people with where they're at. And I think sometimes when people say 1,200 calories, it is jarring to people. And I'd say most of my clients are losing weight eating well above 1,200 calories. But I say that because I think there's a really big stigma around clinicians talking about what they're doing with their clients. And I understand it because there's so many like fad diets out there and stuff like that, that are horrible, but this is not fad dieting. Like if you're not eating a lot of food, I'm not going to bump you up from 1,200 calories to 2,500 calories, even though a calorie calculator told me. So I'm big on meeting people with where they're at. But yeah, most of my clients eat 1,600 or more calories a day, honestly.
The biggest misconception out there, or like, I guess that's not misconception is the wrong word. The biggest like point of contention out there in wellness space right now, I would say, because like back in the 90s, it was fat, is carbs. Like either you are keto and you are low carb, or you are, you know, like whatever, like you're eating vegan and you are eating all the carbs every single day. So like, which one is,
what do we do? Yeah. So that's actually the second thing we focus on, which is I call like what you eat. Like we want to, the food you eat is, yes, calories enhance our metabolism, but the food you eat also does too. So, you know, I stick really to the balanced plate with my clients. So the first thing we do after calories is I want to focus on your protein intake.
Yeah.
So protein's really important. Protein and calories are going to be the biggest thing, especially because a lot of my clients, they honestly haven't dieted and had a lot of protein when they have like fad diet and stuff. So we really emphasize protein. As a general rule of thumb, 20 to 30 grams at minimum every meal, split throughout the day, is going to be most optimal, especially if you lift weights. 10 to 15 grams at snacks, but I will say some of my clients do eat more than that at meals. It just really depends, but just context is king. Most of the women that listen to most of the shows I'm on, sometimes they're coming in from not having even 20 to 30 grams. So that's a push for them.
I feel like most women, even that I work with, and yes, I focus on diet and like their plate. We do food logs, all that same kind of stuff. But like, I find that fiber and protein, most women aren't getting even close to near enough. And
yeah, absolutely not. Or they're getting fiber, but it's like through the diet foods, and it's like there's not 1 ounce of color on their plate.
Right. And like all of the antioxidants and phytonutrients that fiber comes along with. So I want to
generally like half your body weight in protein grams per day.
So I use, the general rec is like the 0.8 grams per kilo. I actually never go below 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. There's the best way to calculate it is based off of muscle mass, but unfortunately with my clientele, I don't have access to that data. So we basically, when we set macros for our clients, anywhere between like 25 to 30%, but I also calculate it based upon their, like how much they weigh. So it kind of just depends on the person, honestly. Exercise really influences it. And the one other thing I'll say is a lot of my clients, because they're eating so low, I may want them to eat like 120 grams of protein, even if they're exercising a lot. But if they're coming in at like 50 grams, what I find too that really holds women back is they'll eat like 50 grams one day, but then 150 another day, where it's like, okay, I rather set this like higher, but like lower than like that 150. So you can actually be
consistent.
Because I care much more about the consistency than like the perfect numbers.
Yeah, 100%.
What did you say the formula was for kilos?
0.8.
So 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight is going to be really low. So that's like the general guidelines that actually I think the United States needs to update. So I usually go anywhere between 1.2 to 1.5. But exercise is going to impact that. It kind of depends.
I remember a time in my life when springtime would hit and immediately I would be searching for a new trainer or Googling all of the 7-day juice cleanse, 14-day detoxes so that I could get myself in shape for summer. And what I didn't realize at this time was that all of that was a complete waste of my time, of my energy, of my resources. And I look back on that just wishing for those hours and all of that energy and brain power back. The decisions that I was making for my body were coming from a place of punishment rather than from a place of love. And it wasn't until I started meditating and I started doing the work, the real work on myself, that I recognized that I needed to nourish my body with both movement and food and mindset work if I ever wanted my body to love me back in a sustainable way. And that's why the WBK membership, that I release meditations where I deeply connect you with yourself, and blood sugar balancing recipes to nourish you on a cellular level, and low impact movement to support the delicate balance of your hormones, really gets you the results that you're looking for, where it starts to become a lifestyle. It starts to become who you are. I can tell you firsthand that both myself and my members, my private clients, all of us have seen the most incredible results from the WBK method. It's so different than your typical diet and a restrictive approach that we're taught from diet culture from a very early age. As a 33-year-old mom of 2, this is the leanest I've ever been, the most energy that I've ever had, and the best that I have ever felt in my freaking body. And it can be that way for you too. So right now, with the code Balancing Chaos, all one word, BALANCINGCHAOS, you can get 10% off your annual membership for the WBK method and get new weekly content, plus a library of hundreds of workouts, recipes, meditations, with a 7-day reset and a 30-day challenge, all to get you started. So use the code Balancing Chaos, again, all one word, to start your 7-day free trial and see when you love your body back, how your body starts to love you.
Before we kind of get into like tips and ideas for what people can do, from your perspective, there, like you said, there are so many fad diets out there. There are so many things, especially like, I feel like my clients, the thing that I'll tell them is like, get off your phone, because Instagram is going to confuse you more. All of the information that you are consuming there, whereas like one person, like I said, is vegan. The other person is telling you to count macros. This other person's telling you to, not have any carbs or like net carbs a day. And so for you, what are you can include those things that I just said, but like, what are the biggest pitfalls that women are like, traps that they are falling into? A big one that I hear is like eating, like late night snacking, because people are so stressed that by the end of the day, like that makes them feel good. But it's like, oh my gosh, when you do that, you're literally just like blacking out and you don't even know what you're putting in your mouth. So, And so I would love to hear from you. Like, what are the big pitfalls that people are falling into?
Yeah, I think definitely skipping breakfast and fasting, which I'm not against fasting, but it doesn't tell me what you're eating. And if you struggle with late day overeating and you're a mom and you're really tempted by your kids' food, intermittent fasting in the morning is not the best idea for you because it's causing you to binge eat. So, so fasting, and especially if you struggle with binge eating and overeating. And just like being so restrictive with like meal timings when like your diet and like what you're eating is not in a good place. Also intermittent fasting and your window falls around like when you're working out. So you're not able to get like post-workout fuel. I'd say a lot of women, the biggest thing is just setting their calories too low. Like you're going to binge if you're they get scared to eat more, then they overeat. Not eating carbs. A lot of my clients are so low carb, or like they think they're low carb, but what's also happening is they're so low carb that it's causing them to eat more high fat food. So they think they're, I'm eating healthy, I'm in a deficit, but it's like fat's double the amount of calories. So that's why your portions are really small and you're not getting full and there's no fiber. But you're still eating a lot of calories. The final thing that I see a lot of, that's I think a big pitfall, is just being so restrictive with eating out. A big part of the framework and approach to coaching I take is I want fun to fit in, even as you're losing weight. Now, obviously there is sacrifice. Some clients, I have some real talk, like, you're having 10 out of your 21 meals out during the week. It's impacting your calories, Some of those meals are not just, I'm getting something quick and healthy at like Kava or Sweetgreen. It's, there's appetizers, there's drinks, there's desserts, like it's a whole moment. So, I want fun to fit in. And I think when you're too restrictive losing weight and you don't understand your lifestyle and how that fits into it, that can really be a big pitfall for people. But at the same time, you have to like find the balance. But yeah, eating out, I think, is a big pitfall for people.
I love that you bring that up, because a lot of the pushback that I get from my own clientele is around, I don't like to cook. If I meal prep, I'm bored. I feel like I'm eating the same thing every day. And I'm like,
or if you live in New York or something where it's hard.
It doesn't, but like people don't like to cook at home is what I'm saying. Like people don't want to put in like the effort and time to cook at home. And so I would love to hear what your response is to that, because I'm sure you, especially like living in a city like Boston, like there's probably lots of options and people just don't really, everyone is living such a fast-paced modern life. It's like, okay, so what can we do to make this more simplified and to have people not feeling like they're eating chicken and broccoli all day long?
Oh yes. Oh my God. Plain chicken and broccoli is a crime with no rice and no sauce. That like, no, we're not doing that. My snarky response, and maybe this is the Boston in me, I'm like, well, you don't have to cook at home, but like, what's that going to do to your health? Like, there are decisions in life, and I'm all about meeting people. I'm all about meeting people with where they're at, but I'm also a realist. And I think that's something that sometimes is jarring to people, but it's like, it's not my responsibility to motivate you. Like that has to come from yourself, because guess what? You can sign up for a program 90 days and you lose some weight, but like if you can't actually change your habits and value why it's important for you to do something, no coaching, no amount of money investment into something else is going to do that for you. So that's a little bit of my real talk, but at the end of the day, I always just relate to my clients. Like, I don't want to cook at the end of the day. My husband, who's finishing up his residency, sometimes he doesn't want to cook and he's the best cook ever compared to me. at the end of the day. But you get it done. So it's like, how can we find really simple things? And I'm a big fan of oh shit meals. So it's like lazy stuff that we can put in the air fryer, just like mix and match. I mean, they make microwave rice now. Yeah. You can make a bowl at home, microwave rice, microwave veggies. You can get some rotisserie chicken at your local grocery store. Like, there are so many ways you can really mix and match things and also add in fun, but like you have to put in that initial effort to figure out like, what are those simple, maybe 1 to 2 go-to meals? Yeah. And yeah, I think the biggest misconception too is you don't have to meal prep. Like I always make fun of Pinterest because I think I got triggered by it when I was younger. But on Pinterest, you search like meal prep and it's this girl in a sports bra in front of all this food for the week. And I'm like, I could never be that girl. Like I could never cook every single meal for my week ahead of time.
Because it doesn't allow you to like understand, like maybe on Wednesday, I'm not going to want that, whatever it was that I made on Sunday. And I think that like mentality around it also triggers some of those, like whether it's binges or people overeating. It's because it's like, we're humans. We're not designed to just eat the same thing over and over and over again. So I'm with you on that.
It just takes the fun out of it.
Totally.
Like, you're supposed to enjoy food. You're supposed to, I don't know, intuitive eating, but I feel like this today, or this sounds good. If you got it all planned out, then it's just like a mechanism at that point.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, like we're not a bodybuilder trying to prep for a certain show and be a certain weight. Like we're living life. Like food. I love that you said food is supposed to be enjoyed. Like food is fun. Food is supposed to be enjoyed. And I think that's also a misconception. Like as you're losing weight or even with your health, like I always say the goal is to fall in love with healthy eating. Like, and
it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. There's going to be days you don't want to do it. There's days you don't want to, do certain things in your life, but, say you have a kid, you can't just not show up. Like same with food, like you have to eat regardless.
I assume the goal is really to create a responsible relationship with food and then just feel better. And then like weight loss is just kind of like a byproduct. Right.
Bingo.
I think that the way I look at it is like, you start educating yourself more, which is what you said at the beginning, education and awareness. And it's like, oh, I know what this is doing to my body. And then I know what this is doing to my body, because it's not all about the weight. It's also about how you feel, your energy levels, your mood, your motivation, like all of those things play a role in or are a product of eating more real whole food. So my next question is around like progress. And like, I think that the more people start to see little bits of progress, the more that they're like, okay, I can keep being consistent with this. Like I am like really happy and like, this is motivating me and fueling me. But that like initial kick, like for me, like I always say to people, how bad do you want this? But like, what do you say to people to kind of get them? Because like what you said, you're like, I can't motivate you. You have to motivate yourself. So what do you do? Or is there any like tools that you give people? And then you have tons of programs like the 90-day Fit Babe Body. Like, are they like in that, like tracking their food? Like how are they making the progress along the way?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to progress tracking, I just as much as like the food and the tangible, like, okay, calories, protein, have these types of meals, that's super important. I actually think tracking progress and how you track progress is equally as important, because if that is in disalignment and you don't understand what progress is, how are you going to know if you're making progress? And that's going to impact how you feel, your ability to want to show up, all that stuff. So I always set the expectation that we have to have really 5 different core areas of progress. Weight is one that's huge, obviously, that I know people want to see. Depending on how much you weigh now is going to impact the weekly weight loss that you'd be able to see.
What's healthy? Like, because I think that there's a lot of opinions out there.
Yeah. So I aim for 1/2 pound to 2 pounds a week with my clients. However, if you are at a higher body weight, you can successfully and healthfully lose up to 1% of your body weight per week. So for instance, if you're, if you struggle with like morbid obesity, like you would have more body fat to lose, versus as you get closer and closer to your goal weight, you have less body fat to lose. So therefore less progress. But yeah, around 1/2 pound to 2 pounds a week is usually that sweet spot. Progress photos for body composition. You could do measurements. I prefer like how clothes fit, energy levels, and digestion. Those are kind of like the top 5. My clients love the weigh-ins the most, as you can imagine. Like everyone does, all women. But how I have my clients track progress is you get to choose how often you want to weigh every week. I love daily weigh-ins. So you can see the fluctuations, even though it can be triggering for some people at first. However, we have to track the lowest weight of the week, and we have to track the lowest weight of the week over weeks, and over 3 to 4 weeks. Say you're stuck, then we're going to explore, okay, why are you stuck? You're not hitting your calories. Look at your weekly averages there. Boom. And then we're kind of able to manipulate it. But I track over the long term and really emphasize my clients not to focus on so much of the day-to-day changes and focus more on the habits over time, because this process does take time. But yeah, a little bit of combination of the scale, how we feel, and also body composition that can't be shown on the scale.
Yeah. With the scale, I think that's a big one for a lot of women. Like you said, it can be triggering. I know it was for me for a really long time. Yeah, I still don't, I don't weigh myself. Like, that's just a thing. But like, I think that for some, I do have clients who do, because it's helpful for them and it's motivating. So the question around that is like, for the clients that you have that say like, I have tons of negative self-talk. If I go up a pound and I'm on the scale, what's the response there?
My first response back is why, because we got to explore that. So I'm not here to say you have to weigh in or not. I have clients that don't weigh in, and we actually, sometimes I'm like, girl, you better throw that scale out the window right now, because you're going to drive me nuts and you're driving yourself nuts. And that's, when you're in the place where you're focusing more on the scale than the work, like you're focusing more on your weight than the work is what I say. Like, that's a big red flag, because the more you focus on the weight, it's not going to change by focusing on it. Like, you got to focus on what's going to get you there. You're missing the point. So yeah, I think, because I've been highly triggered by the scale, that time in college, that almond wake up in the middle of the night, I'm super hungry time. I was weighing in like 5-6 times a day, like being obsessed with it. So I've been in my client's shoes. So I totally understand that. But yeah, you have to explore the why. And a lot of times it's like, well, if I'm not seeing progress, I feel bad about myself. Well, why? Well, I feel like I'm not seeing progress, so I'm never going to get to my goals. Well, why is that bad? And then you just keep digging deeper, and you're like, wow, like there's self-worth issues. There is, confusion issues. Maybe dieting has really done you dirty and you're just really confused about what you should be doing. But there's always a reason where that emotion is coming from. And it's easier said than done exploring it. But at the end of the day, like, you have to explore it. And for a lot of my clients who are like perfectionists, it's, everything in life they may have, like they have the job, they have the family, they have the kids, like they have it all. Like, they're super highly successful, but like the one thing they can't figure out is their weight. So they're like, well, I'm this perfectionist crushing it everywhere else. So there's a lot of like self-worth issues there. And see how that's like not related to the scale. It's really just your frustration with it.
Yeah.
Do you refer people in those situations? Do you actually coach them through some of the
emotional stuff?
Yeah. So I do coach a lot of clients through that, but I'm not a therapist. So fortunately, many of my clients already go to therapy. So I'm like, that's great. But in the weight piece of it, definitely feel confident being able to talk about that. Cause it's not so much like we're unpacking like your childhood. It's more like we're talking about the scale.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want to unpack childhood.
I think that
always dangerous.
I think that when women are or have been in like a constant loop of dieting, oftentimes there is self-image and like confidence issues, right? And a lot of that we do pick up, unfortunately, in childhood because of like things that we have learned and behaviors that we've kind of picked up along the way. So for you, do you find that like, let's just be like very specific, like most of your clients who are dealing with, yo-yo dieting and all of that, is that something they typically pick up like from their own mothers, or where do they, or is it all different, all like across this?
I'd say, there's definitely a lot of women who pick it up from their mothers. The amount of women that have told me, my mom put me on Weight Watchers at 12 years old. Like that story, it's all over the internet and I'm getting it, you're getting it, like we're all getting it. That to me, I was not from that experience. Mine was more picked up from social media. So yeah, I'd say some of it's from parents and family, grandmothers even, truthfully. Some of it through sports. Some of it through, just various things in childhood, depending on like if you ever struggled with your weight before, that kind of stuff. And some of my clients too have never struggled with their weight before, and then they gain weight, and then that's when they start the desperate dieting. Yeah. So yeah, but I will say that it's also such a breath of fresh air. Like sometimes I'm sure you see this too, like you'll just get someone that just like doesn't know what to do as a blank slate. I'm like, I hit the jackpot because
yes.
you're a blank slate. I can just give you this structure and then you're not going to do all this crazy shitty dieting. And so what is cool about social media nowadays though, is there are a lot of women who are doing it the right way. As much as we talk about like all of the crazy fads, like there are a lot of women that have not only a great head on their shoulders, but they haven't fallen victim to a lot of these diets because there is so much great information on social media now too.
Yeah. Totally true. I think that we always talk about that on our show. Like it is such a double-edged sword. And it's really up to each individual to recognize how they're using it. And if there's balance there, or if it's like, oh my gosh, I'm buying every ad, I am being sucked in for hours. Like that, full transparency, that used to be me.
Yeah. Oh no, it's hard. I mean, even sometimes nutrition stuff like pops up on mine and I'm like, okay, like I consider myself like a smart, educated person on this topic. And wow, like I got to go fact check this because I'm not sure. So I'm like, I can't even imagine someone who doesn't even understand carbs and calories and anything like what they're thinking.
100%. So as you know, I'm sure you've probably had like an influx of people into your programs in the last couple of months with it being summer and all that. Everyone is coming in right now being like, I want to lose 5 or 10 pounds. Like I, how do I do that? And how do I do it fast? If you could share with our audience, let's say 3, like what are your 3 big tips for women who are in that place right now?
I would say 1, take your initial progress photos because you're probably not going to take them. Well, maybe if you have 5 pounds to lose. I mean, sometimes for women at heavier body weights, there's a lot of resistance towards the photos, but especially with 5 pounds, the scale, I always put it this way. If you lost no weight, but you looked like you lost 5 or 10 pounds, would you be happy? Yeah. 99% of women, that's the goal, right? Like we want to look better. We want to feel better. We want to, see the fat loss. So the progress photos are key, especially if you are lifting weights, which is my second thing. If you want to lose the last 5 pounds, especially 5 or 10 pounds, definitely emphasizing strength training is going to be helpful. Now, you could do other things like Pilates and yoga. And, I'm not here to say you have to do one workout. You got to find what you love, but especially putting on lean body mass will just further help you, especially in your deficit with your protein and help you lean out.
And I think that muscle weighs more than fat. And so that's why you're saying like the photos are so important.
Yeah. So muscle and fat, the easiest way I like to explain it is they weigh the same. Like you can make anything obviously weigh the same. So 5 pounds of fat and 5 pounds of muscle, but the 5 pounds of muscle is going to take up less space than 5 pounds of fat. So therefore in progress photos, if you're losing body fat and building muscle, you'd be the same weight on the scale, but you'd be leaner, thinner, lose inches in that other version. So bingo, exactly. Like that's why the progress photos are so key. That's why lifting weights is so incredibly helpful because that muscle is not just going to come from your protein intake.
Right.
And I'd say really emphasize a small calorie deficit, and it's going to take longer than obviously you being super restrictive, but it's better for your muscle mass. You're going to retain more muscles, better for your metabolism, better for your hunger hormones, better for your mental health. There's so many benefits, but I'm definitely doing a slight deficit, like 300 to 500 below your maintenance is way better. You don't want to do 1,000 calories or less, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What kind of strength training are you recommending? Is it like high rep, reasonable weight, or is it, lower reps, higher weight? Like where have you seen the most success there for women?
Yeah. So I definitely like to say, like, I'm not a personal trainer as a dietitian, like definitely not like my wheelhouse. Obviously I'm knowledgeable in lifting. But a lot of my clients don't work out at all sometimes, or like they're brand new to lifting weights. So for them, I always say like, just get to the gym, even if it's like start with like 8 to 12 reps, progressive overload. So I think the biggest thing beyond the reps is going to failure and pushing yourself. I think that's really a big thing that is missed for people. And yeah, some of my clients, they prefer doing like HIIT paired with lifting weights. And if that's how you're getting into lifting, I think that's better than not. Even though obviously for like optimal muscle gains and all that stuff, you do sometimes want to like separate the two and, just focus on the lifting. But yeah, I'd say beyond the rep ranges and stuff and the specific workouts, I think pushing yourself to failure and also progressing up in weight, like being okay. Like, you don't stick to just the 5 pounds, like bump up to the 10, then bump up to the 20, like keep pushing.
I was actually reading a paper, like a research article recently about, those like high intensity classes. And it was specifically designed around women and how to kind of put it into the shortest terms as I can, it was like women who do those classes regularly tend to have they'll tend to overeat because one, they have like a belief that I basically earned this. And two is because those classes will kick off certain hunger hormones in a different way than if you are not doing that. So what are your thoughts on that? I'm very interested.
You're asking the right person. So I used to be a front desk person at Orange Theory Fitness when I was doing my master's in nutrition. Yeah. So I got a full blown, I feel like PhD in Orange Theory Fitness working there. And then that literally what you described was me when I was struggling with my weight. And then actually my first job in private practice, it was in person before I opened up my own. And the practice I worked for partnered with Orange Theory studios all over Jacksonville, Florida. And so there were like 10 or 12 different studios that they had this whole conglomerate of. And I was working with clients there. And that was the biggest thing I saw, because I'd have clients, one, working out like 6 days a week, doing Orange Theory classes, back to back, double classes, 90-minute classes, and their appetites would be out of control. Right. And so the biggest thing I did with them before, and I haven't read like a paper, you got to show me that paper, but the biggest thing that I did with them was actually cut back their sessions. And we focused on food first, exercise second, which is a big mantra I always share with my clients. And that way we could really manage their appetite, get them feeling better, give them time to recover. And, that's a big thing with exercise too. It's not bad to work out every day. And if you're very highly trained, like you can, and you can still push yourself. But if you're like me a couple of days ago, like I had to take 2 or 3 days off from my lift when I was like getting back into it, because I was just like so freaking sore. Yeah. So it's like, if you're also not pushing yourself in your workout, and depending on what your goal is, it's like, yeah, you're going to these workout classes all the time, but like, is it even working for the goal that you have? So you're kind of working harder for no reason.
Yeah. I think I view Orange Theory as predominantly cardio. I think
for sure.
Tag it as strength training. That's kind of just baked into it. It's cardio.
For sure.
I got incredible.
Oh, it's cardio for sure.
You did.
Not for me. And yeah, it's hard to do every day. And fairly injurious, I felt like. I was going to the 6, 7 a.m. class, and then all of a sudden you're running on a treadmill at like 12 speed within minutes. Yeah. And
trying to wake up.
From like a cardio-based session, and you're going over and lifting, which can be fine, but you really got to look for your form. Yeah. A lot of time that goes. So not to like shit on Orange Theory, but yeah, I view it as cardio.
It is for sure.
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way. I hate the rower. My husband loves the rower. I'm like, why? He loves the rower. I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the weight section stuff, like when I would go there, I would just get so upset. Like it wasn't longer. And there's some workouts that like, say it's like half the class in the weight room, when it's like, okay, like we can build a little bit of time there. But like when you're constantly switching, and then you're not doing like the same core exercises, so you're not even like progressing in them. I honestly, we're going to go there. Like it makes people plateau in their workouts. So it's not that it's not good. Like I'd rather you do something than nothing. I completely agree. But it's like, you get to the place where good sometimes isn't enough. Like you want to do the best thing for you.
Yeah. Agreed. I found that when I switched my workouts to be lower impact, because I used to do like hour and a half on the treadmill and then hour with a trainer. Like who has
hour and a half
on the treadmill? No. I would do like high, like, you know how that like popular, like incline, like 12% incline, but like trying to like, it was basically like trying to hike, and then I would come back down and rest, and then go do it again. I don't even know what it's called, like 12:30 or something like that.
Oh, the 12:3:30.
But like that was before it was ever even a thing. I would just like, I was doing
I'm like 90 minutes.
Yeah, no, ridiculous. My adrenals were literally like tanked because I also wasn't eating. But my next question is around like, I think you probably get this a lot. People want a quick fix. And so when it comes to supplements, are there any supplements that you recommend for people that are targeted or designed to help with weight loss? And I'm not talking about the teas or like, the things like appetite suppressants, like
you're talking about like real supplements, like supplements that have been studied, because that's a big misconception. Like supplements, as much as I'm not like a supplement pusher, to be quite honest. However, supplements, very respectful of many of them because they have been researched and studied. So, so not something I typically recommend for my clientele, but creatine is highly, highly studied as a supplement. Also, we naturally get it through our food. So you are naturally getting it as well. But that, especially if you're trying to put on lean body mass, is really awesome. For my clients trying to lose weight, not something I typically, they have enough weight fluctuations. If I added that in, some of them might kill me. But creatine can be something to explore. Also, there's a lot of benefit with not mental health, like neurodegenerative diseases and Alzheimer's. There's really cool topics on it, and not my expertise, but no, there's a lot of great stuff there with creatine. Protein powders and supplements like that have been so incredibly studied over time. It's something I use in my diet. It's not something you have to use. I always explain it that way to clients, but to supplement your diet with protein powders, one that fits your diet, your budget, and also, is also aligning with your gut, put it that way. Cause obviously, whey protein for me, like I can't have whey protein. My clients can have it, figure out what works for you. So that could be really great. And then vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids can be really great to include into your diet too. Once again, as we talked about, like there is no magic quick fix. Taking a vitamin D supplement, like my mom asked me about last night, is not going to just like massively speed up your weight loss progress or just magically give you more energy. But it's important. And many people are vitamin D deficient, especially as women. And there is a correlation between vitamin D and weight. And then with omega-3s, many of us don't get a lot of anti-inflammatory foods in our diet. So just once again, something that can help you optimize things, but and support the deficit in the protein and all that.
So sustainability, that's really the most important thing, because we all, like everyone who comes, to try to lose weight, like it's like they've probably spent, I know I did, copious amounts of money and time on programs, and then the results don't last and they regain the weight back and then probably a little more weight. So what are some of, let's say 3, like that's a magic number here, like 3 pieces of advice that you have to make the changes sustainable and so that clients can maintain their results?
Oh yeah. I think when you're first beginning the change, look at how you eat now and focus on little ways you can tweak how you actually eat now. So that way you're not kind of creating this meal plan from scratch. I think that's where a lot of women and men go wrong. It's like, okay, you want to lose weight? Okay, here's this brand new meal plan. We're having this egg white patty at 7 a.m. And it's like, you're eating a way that you literally don't eat like right now. So it's going to be really hard to sustain that in the short term and definitely in the long term. I'd say instead of trying to just cut so many things out from your diet, how can we focus on addition more than restriction? Which I know a lot of people say, but it's very true. So instead of thinking of, all the bad foods you need to cut out, I look at, okay, well, what is your diet missing right now? Okay, there is no vegetable anywhere in your day. So instead of just having that pasta and chicken for dinner, we're going to, put some spinach in the tomato sauce. We're going to have a side salad with your favorite Bolthouse dressing or, whatever it is. So trying to find ways to fit things in. And for sustainability, I also think like find the fun. That is so underrated. I think when it comes to fitness and nutrition, like find the fun in it. So, little things like my husband and I will put on music when we cook and, making it like not something that's so dreading. And like, once you get your hands dirty in the kitchen a little bit, like it becomes a little bit easier too, but yeah, find the fun in it and also find meaning like the fun in food. It tastes good, like enjoy it, try to find recipes. Like healthy eating is not supposed to taste like cardboard. Like I love my diet and I want you guys to also.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that we didn't even touch on, and I would like, we'll have to have you back or something to talk about, is like that whole like mindful eating piece of all of it is like, I feel like you were like finding fun in it also requires you to like be in the moment. And like so many people are eating distracted. And I feel like that is such a huge thing that inhibits people from like actually tuning into like when they're full and overeating and all of that good stuff. So we could probably do a whole episode on that.
Yeah. And on that note, the mindful eating piece too is like asking yourself, what do you like? What do you want? Like so many people, I feel like get burnt out when dieting and that leads to these unsustainable changes, but it's like, just take a second, like say there were no food rules and they're not, like there's no food rules. What do you want? Okay. You want a pizza? How can we make it healthy at home with a whole wheat crust? And, we make it from scratch instead of getting it from Domino's. Like it's little things like that. Like you can find simple ways to make healthier versions of your favorite food. Because really anything can fit. Like there's nothing that has to be off limits.
We are like on the same page. That is absolutely my approach. So we like to end our episodes by kind of just talking about like, what are a few things that you do to take care of yourself? Because now you're in this place where I'm guessing it's probably like maintenance mode. Like, what are the things that you do to set yourself up for a morning before you see a ton of clients? And then like, as you wind down in the evening?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first off, I wake up in the morning. I have to get my coffee, chill with my dogs, walk my dogs, always my morning routine. I'm trying to get better about water. I'm so basic. I got a Stanley Cup, guys. Like that's free. I'm like every single person on TikTok.
Yeah.
But for me to maintain all my progress and feel good, grocery shopping at the beginning of the week, so I have that healthy food present, taking time away from sitting at my desk, or even if I have a busy day on the go, and like scheduling those meals in. I'm very big on 3 meals a day. Like I do not skip those meals. I don't want to go back to that place I was at before. It's very easy for me to, you know, cut this, do this, and then like you have the binge or the overeating. So being consistent with it. And more tangibly, you know, every meal prioritizing protein. I try to get at least 2 meals, lots of color on my plate. Breakfast is usually not veggie centric. So lunch and dinner, we try to get that in there. I'm a big fan of hot girl walking. Oh my goodness. Meaning like just getting out, getting moving, you know, hitting like 10,000 steps a day for me is kind of the benchmark every day. For me, my mental health is just so much better when I hit my 10,000. I can't describe it. So that's really great. And then just fitting in fun too. I'm a big ice cream girly. So sometimes I find like healthy sweet treat alternatives, and I kind of keep track and mindful about like how much fun I am having, of course. But yeah, for me, being able to also include the real thing in my diet is also tremendously helpful when it's worth it.
I love that. Yeah. You're not going to go to Italy and skip out on a gelato.
Oh my God. No, that's a sin.
Right.
I never do.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Lauren. We really appreciate it. We're so grateful for your time. I feel like this was such a really insightful episode, especially for this time of the year when everybody's got this topic on their mind. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, guys.
We really hope that you enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Wellness by Kelley. And if you're new around here, you can sign up for the WBK 7-day free trial, where you can get access to all of my low impact workouts, blood sugar balancing, plant-based recipes, and guided meditations, all available on wellnessbykelley.com and on the WBK app.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also connect with us on social media at Wellness by Kelley. Drop us a DM for who you want to hear from.